Mahalo e taufuluti and welcome back to another Heilala Creations tutorial. On today's agenda, we will take you through our process of making a Kahoa Heilala. As always, everything we use in this video will be linked in our bio. Let's get into it. For step 1, you will need a pen, a Kahoa stencil, and a red sheet of A3 acrylic or stiffened felt. Outline your Kahoa stencil onto the stiffened felt. Then using your scissors, cut out the Kahoa stencil outline. It's important to keep the excess pieces of felt for other Kahoa creations like the Kahoa nusi, kawha making, etc. Once you have done that, using your one-hand hole puncher, punch half circles throughout the Kahoa base. The reason behind us hole punching the Kahoa base is so that the Kahoa doesn't sit too stiff on the wearer. We want the Kahoa to be a bit more malleable. Make sure to empty your hole puncher as you go to avoid it getting blocked up. Now moving on to step 2, you will need your sewing needle, Heilala flowers, jute twine and your Kahoa base. Using your sewing needle, outline the base of the Kahoa with heilalas starting from the top right corner of the base. So as you can see here, I'm starting from the top right corner of the Kahoa base. When sewing my heilalas, I like to keep them a finger space apart. This is for when you come back after you've outlined the Kahoa with heilalas and start filling them in. In my opinion, it looks much neater this way. For those of you who have followed me for a while, know that the process of making a Kahoa Heilala requires a lot of patience and love. So if you're just starting out on your Kahoa Heilala making journey, my advice to you is don't give up too easily. Take extra care and time to master this beautiful craft. Now moving on to step 3, the sewing. You see these finger spaces that I intentionally left? We will sew a Heilala in to close that gap and sew in between 3 heilalas until we reach the next gap on the left. As you can see here, I'm making use of the hole punched gaps and threading my needle through for an easy sew. If you are using the jute twine, it can be a bit difficult to thread your needle through the acrylic felt, which is why we make use of the hole punched holes on the Kahoa base. You will notice here how my needle directs where the Heilala flower will be placed. All I do is point the needle in the direction I want the Heilala flower to go and thread it through. Notice how there is always 3 heilalas that are sewn in the middle as I am sewing from left to right, right to left, filling the gaps, as well as sewing 3 heilalas within the middle. It's important that when you are running out of twine to flip the Kahoa over and double knot it at the back. Sewing a Kahoa Heilala is kind of like playing with a jigsaw puzzle. You make sure that each Heilala flower slots in perfectly to its own corner. So as you can see here, I'm continuing to fill in the gap from the left, then I will sew in 3 heilalas in the middle, then I will fill in the gap on the right, then continue going from right to left, left to right, and so on. You will keep sewing in this pattern until you reach the very end of the kahoa. Some of you may think, why sew it on? Isn't it faster to just glue it on? Well, yes, but I prefer to sew it on because it not only lasts longer and is more durable, but to me, personally, sewing on each and every individual flower means much more than something that was just glued on. Once you've come to the end of your kahoa, make sure to flip over your Kahoa Heilala and double knot your twine. Working with jute twine can get a little messy, so make sure you clean up your workspace as you go. Your Kahoa Heilala should look a little something like this, but if it doesn't, don't be discouraged, you're only just beginning. Love it and keep going. This is something that's made from love. Be proud. Moving on to step 4, where we sew on our ribbon and our ave. It's important to know the two sides of the ribbon. So there's a shiny side and there's a rougher side. You want to make sure the shiny side of the ribbon is facing the same way as the heilalas, and that's to the front. And the rougher side is facing the back with all your stitch work. When you're sewing your ribbon on, make sure your twine doesn't get caught up with the heilalas at the front and sew around them. Once you're done securing your ribbon, make sure to double knot your twine at the back. This wee additional step is optional, but what I like to do at the end of my ribbons is I like to cut small triangles just to add a little sweet touch to the ends of your kahoa. And this is what your kahoa should look like, but I'm sorry, we're not quite finished yet. So what we're going to be doing to make your kahoa pop even more is to add small ave-aves onto the rim of your kahoa. So what I do first is I sew my needle through the very outer edge of the kahoa on the left hand side, and then count 3 heilalas down on the outer rim of the kahoa before sewing in my ave-ave. In this step, I literally eyeball the length that I would like the ave-ave to be, so it really is up to you on how short or how long you want the ave-ave to be. Just make sure you double knot at the end. So you're going to keep repeating the same step, making sure to measure it within the length that you would like, and make sure the ave-aves are the same length before double knotting and continuing to your next ave-ave. Try and not stab yourself in the process of making ave-aves. Once you've reached the end of your ave-aves, make sure to double knot and continue on to your second lot of ave-aves. So our next wave of ave-aves is basically going to be the exact same step, but in this case we are just going to be placing the ave-aves in between each of the previous ones. Personally, I like to make the second set of ave-aves shorter than the previous to add a little definition to the kahoa, and it also adds a level of elegance to the Kahoa Heilala. Once you've reached the end of your second set of waweawes, make sure you double knot as usual at the back of your Kahoa Heilala. If you've made it this far in the video, give yourself a pat on the back because this craft is certainly not for the weak. Now we head on over to sewing on the aweawes that hang on the back of the Kahoa Heilala. So roll out 30 to 40 centimeters of jute twine and start knotting and threading through the heilalas. So I simply create a knot, sew in the heilala and make another knot to secure the heilala in place. It's up to you with how close or far apart you want your heilalas to be. Once you've reached the end, make sure you double knot your twine to secure your aweawe. So for this kahoa, I make 2 aweawes so I can have 2 dangles that hang from the back of the kahoa. Congratulations on making it to step 5. Step 5 is where we cut out our kahoa stencil and hot glue it onto the back of the Kahoa Heilala. The reason why we cover the back of the Kahoa Heilala is so that nothing can get caught or snagged on the twine and to also protect our stitch work. We want the Kahoa Heilala to be durable and last a long time, so by doing this, we are ensuring that it does so. Starting from the top left side of the kahoa, we will use the hot glue gun and follow the kahoa stencil along. Cut off any excess felt when you've reached the end. And this is what it should look like. By covering the back of the kahoa, notice how it looks much more neat and professional. You'll be impressing all your family and friends when they see your beautiful Kahoa Heilala. And a round of applause, you made it! Mahalo au puto for watching along our Kahoa Heilala tutorial. If you would like to buy a DIY Heilala kit to start making your Kahoa Heilala today, go to heilalacreations.com to order. We sell you everything you need to get started on your kahoa making journey today. Don't forget to give us a like and subscribe and tell us what tutorial we should do next in the comment section. Ofatu!